In the tour Follow Tram 28, we start at the first stop, or last of this tram, at Martim Moniz. This area takes the name after the knight that gave his life trapped in a door during the siege of Lisboa in 1147, for his comrades could enter the city and take it from the Moors. Martim Moniz was also an area where the Portuguese troops were encamped besides the Graça area during the conquest of Lisboa. During the 14th century, the King Fernando extended the defensive walls with towers. And you can still see some defensive structures from the medieval period, like the Pella Tower. In this square is located also Nossa Senhora da Saúde Chapel. Translation could be Our Lady of Health Chapel. It was founded in 1505 by the artillerymen of the city of Lisboa, being then dedicated to Saint Sebastian, a saint of great devotion, by the way, since he was protector against the plague. Since 1661, he is dedicated to Senhora da Saúde, protecting Lisboa against the outbreaks of plague. In the ceiling, the initials AM, meaning Ave Maria. Now I'm going to talk about a sad situation. Next to Saúde Chapel, once was standing the College of Orphan Boys, also designated Recolhimento do Amparo. The main door to the street is in Manueline style, 16th century. The door from the courtyard that gives access to the interior held the royal coat of arms. Inside, standing 41 blue and white tile panels with biblical scenes from the 18th century, mostly in a staircase that leads to the 4th floor. This building has an old history. In 1273, the primitive college for orphan children was founded by Queen British, wife of the King Afonso III. And in 1549, Catarina, wife of the King João III, reformed it under the invocation of Nossa Senhora de Montserrat to house 30 orphan and poor boys to receive instruction and prepare them for the religious missions in Africa and Brazil. Why I say it's a sad situation? Besides the tiles were restored, there are no protection in the local, so anyone can enter and you don't know for what purpose. There is a lack of light in the staircase, electric cables around it, and a lack of preservation and care. I believe a lot of my countrymen never visited it or heard about this. So at the moment we are literally following the tram 28 while we are entering the Moraria area, another old part of the city of Lisboa. The name came from the Moors. It was the place where the Moors were settled after the conquest of the city of Lisboa, like in a neighborhood. So it was also in this area that Fado, is the traditional Portuguese song, was born. The word Fado comes from Latin, from fatum, meaning fate or destiny. The roots of Fado is not totally clear. Could come from the Moors that were living in this area of the city. In the 19th century, this music used to be sung in brothels by its workers. The most famous one from this period was Maria Severa. You can still see the house where she spent her last days here in Moraria. In Lisboa, Fado is associated with historic neighborhoods like Alfama, Moraria, Castelo, Madragoa and Bairro Alto, sung with the feeling of deep sadness and nostalgia. The Portuguese used the word saudade for this feeling. On the left side is located the Palace of Condes de Figueira. It's from 17th century and it survived the earthquake of 1755. This palace used to have adorned the Arch of Santo André, built during the reign of the King Fernando, being one of the entrances to the city of Lisboa in medieval period until It was destroyed in 1913 for the traffic and cars could pass. Driving up this hill, we arrived to Graça Square. In Martim Moniz and here were camped the troops of Afonso Henriques during the siege of Lisboa in 1147. In the top of the hill is located the Graça Convent, dating from 1271. This convent was the main house of St. Augustine Order in Portugal and stayed until 1834 with the extinction of religious orders in Portugal. The current construction dates after the earthquake of 1755 with a late Baroque character, a cruciform plan, a single nave and altars from the end of the Rococo. Senhor dos Passos Brotherhood has its own altar and is responsible since 1587 for its procession. The biggest procession in the city of Lisboa. In the chancel, the altar is from 18th century, very simple, with the throne flanked by columns. On each side of the chancel there is a pipe organ flanked by paintings alluding to the life of St. Augustine. Still is possible to see some elements dating before the earthquake of 1755, like in the Baptistery Chapel with the tomb of Rui Gomes de Alvarenga from 1473, or in the atrium that access to the sacristy with tile decoration from the 16th to 18th century with grotesque. The sacristy opened with a remarkable Baroque doorway from the time of Pedro II with Solomonic columns in pink marble and a pediment with two angels supporting the coat of arms of Mendo de Foios, who directed the works. The Baroque space of the sacristy houses two monumental marble cabinets, and one of them houses the tomb of Mendo de Foios. The authority of the allegorical ceiling is from Pedro Alexandrino de Carvalho, but needs restoration. Rich furniture and Rococo tiles with Marian theme and some Baroque paintings from Joannine period decorated this room. The city of Lisboa expanded to Graça area during the 19th century due to industrialization. With construction of new factories, the employers gave houses to lodge their workers, so new working class neighborhoods were born in this area, like Vila Sousa, Vila Berta or Estrela de Ouro. So now we are in Senhora do Monte, for me one of the best viewpoints of this city. From the top of this hill you can see the Graça Convent, you can see the castle area, the castle hill, the river on the back with our 25 of April bridge. It's like San Francisco bridge, but ours is longer. And you also can see Martim Moniz, Carmo Convent and the Santa Justa lift. So I totally recommend you to come here to this viewpoint. So in here there is also a small chapel, Nossa Senhora do Monte, Our Lady of Mount Chapel. The actual construction is from 18th century, after the earthquake of 1755, because the previous one was totally damaged. Inside, in the center, you will find the image of Our Lady of the Mountain, so the main saint of this chapel. But you will see also inside two statues of Santa Luzia and Santa Barbara. There are also Portuguese tiles, blue and white, from the 18th century, and a nativity scene from the school of Machado de Castro from the 18th century. And the most curious element is the chair of Saint James. Saint James was the second bishop of Lisboa. This is in the 3rd century. According to the legend, his mother died on the childbirth. So there is this myth that says for a good childbirth, pregnant women should sit in the chair of St. James to have a safe and healthy birth. So in case you are a pregnant girl or woman, please come to Lisbon and try the chair of St. James. In this crossroad, on the left side, there is a poem from the poet Florbela Espanca. Ser poeta.
E é amar-me assim, perdidamente, e é seres alma e sangue e vida em mim, e dizê-lo cantando a toda a gente. E é amar-te assim, perdidamente, e é seres alma e
We arrived at São Vicente Monastery. Fora in Portuguese means out, meaning the monastery was not under the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Lisboa. The first foundation dates from 1147 after the conquest of Lisboa by Afonso Henriques and ended to the friars of the order of Saint Augustine. In 1173, Saint Vincent was proclaimed the patron saint of Lisboa, and Santo Antonio, who was born in this city, is the saint of popular devotion, with his party on 13th of June, making these months the best months to visit the city of Lisboa. The current building dates from 1582, from the reign of Philip II. It means that survived the earthquake of 1755. The architect was Filippo Terzi, with the cooperation of Juan de Herrera, in Mannerism style. Inside the church, the main altar is covered by a canopy based on 4 columns, and the base of the columns is composed by 8 large life-size wooden sculptures. The pipe organ was built in 1765 by João de Maqueira. The church is in Latin cross, composed by a single nave with 6 intercommunicating side chapels from the 17th century. And the original dome collapsed during the earthquake of 1755. In the monastery there are 2 cloisters dating from 17th century, east and west, and they are the center of the building, giving access to the most important monastic quarters. The decoration of the walls is made with Portuguese blue and white tiles from the 18th century. The entrance hall was decorated in Baroque style from the reign of João V, the Magnanimous, with Portuguese blue and white tiles from the 18th century. The ceiling represents the triumph of Saint Augustine over heresy in Trompedoil from 1710 by the master Vincenzo Baccarelli, making this the only example of this Florentine master that is preserved until today. The sacristy has the interior walls covered in inlaid polychrome marbles, giving an extraordinary decorative effect. The ceiling is painted in oil on canvas, representing the Lamb of God, Agnus Dei. Over the entrance door, a bust representing the King João V. In the chapel of St. Antonio, tradition says that here was located his cell during the years in which he was a canon regular of St. Augustine. At São Vicente are buried the patriarchs of Lisboa in the previously chapter room since the 18th century. The chapel of Meninos da Palhavã Boys, is the resting place of the bastard sons of the King João V. This monastery is an important royal pantheon to the last dynasty of Portugal, Bragança. All its kings and queens are buried here, exception of Pedro IV, buried in Brazil, and Maria I, she is buried at Estrela Basilica. This pantheon room is located in previously Friars Refectory. Here is buried the King Carlos and his son, the Prince Luís Filipe. They were killed by coward terrorists in the 1st of February of 1908. Every year, in this date, a mass is held in the monastery, followed by the position of flowers in this chapel. With the Teles de Menezes Palace, a palace from 17th century, and access to historical area of Alfama, I conclude the first part of this video. Soon a new part will be added. I hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you soon in Lisboa. Please subscribe my channel for new and exciting experiences.